All right, we are live and with Ali. And I'm sorry, Ali, I was about to ask how to pronounce your last name. I don't like to
Oh,
mispronounce.
it's Khamseh.
Okay, I will not be able to say the
It's
the
okay.
first two
It's
letters. But
Khe is a very Iranian specific, like Iranian
yes,
and Arabic specific word. I'm okay with Khamseh as well.
yeah, that's probably how most people will read it phonetically. But
Yeah.
welcome, Ali, and yeah, I speak French. Spoke some French, but I cannot speak in a French accent. I know French is very different than Iranian,
Yeah.
um, but my wife is the one that can handle languages in this family. But I'm glad to have you here. This is a first. We have our first person from. So you're in Iran, but I want to say you're probably
Yes.
our first person just from that general region. We've had Europe,
Oh,
Australia. So so welcome. You're representing an entire
well.
hemisphere.
Whoa, God, that is not gonna put pressure on me.
You'll be fine.
Oh,
But we had a little chat beforehand, and I can tell we are very much of the same mindset in terms of films. Even if we might not agree on the same films, but that's the case with everybody. But Ali, do you want
yeah.
to tell us about yourself and your background and your studies and
Well,
what you love?
I am as you said, I'm in Iran. I'm an Iranian. I was born in Isfahan, which is a city in Iran. It's mostly known for its architecture and art and stuff.
Hmm.
And I live in Tehran. I studied cinema for my bachelor's degree. I am working on my final thesis for my master's degree, again in cinema. And I have made a bunch of short movies, student films. My first real short movie, like the biggest production I did, I actually filmed last year. I'm still working on the post production right now, but it is getting near the end. And I love westerns, spaghetti westerns to be specific.
Okay.
I love
Yeah.
musicals. I know I don't look like it, but I do love musicals, and I love horror movies. I love movies in general. Like movies take up a whole bunch of my life. And even in Iran, I do have a favorite Iranian director, which is Ali Hatami. I love him. Sadly, I don't think anyone outside of Iran is ever going to watch his movies because his movies are incredibly localized.
Huh.
And yeah, that's basically about me. I love movies and I love Jeremy Irons, even though that's not related to anything.
That is well, he is in movies, but that is very random. I think he's a fine actor. I like Jeremy Irons as well. Very British, very proper
Yeah,
actor. But yes,
yeah,
I actually
amazing voice,
great.
amazing
Oh yes,
voice.
amazing voice. Yeah, he's done a lot of voice acting too. So yeah,
Yeah.
well, that is awesome, and we'll talk about Iranian cinema a little bit, but we'll also talk
Mhm,
about world cinema, whatever we feel like talking about. So,
mhm.
um, and yeah, Aliyah Hatami, that's one thing we are uh, we are forced to watch the films that come to America or Europe or
I understand.
wherever. So if they don't get out of Iran, we don't see that. But I don't know Aliyah Hatami.
Ali Hatami, uh, he's a director. He actually died the year I was born, like the in Persian year, by the way. Oh, sorry,
Right,
should have
right.
mentioned in Persian year. He died the same year I was born. Um, he is a very localized director. Like his movies have to deal specifically with Iranian myths, Iranian stories, Iranian language, Persian language, and so I don't think it's like
Oh,
if you gonna watch an Ali Hatami movie, you need to have a lot of cultural background about it. It's very localized. I don't think he's that universal. Like it's our little, it's for my people basically who like his movies. I don't think
I'm.
he is even represented outside of Iran because not a lot of collections have his movies because why
Mm.
would you? It's again incredibly localized. So yeah, I know. I hope that doesn't make me sound like snooty or snobby or anything. It's just that.
There's no such thing
Uh,
on this podcast.
oh,
uh, I'm just looking at his work, and I see Once Upon a Time in Tehran, and that's a
Oh,
lot of auteurs have made Once Upon a Time. Well, in fact, spaghetti
okay.
westerns. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, perhaps the best person to ever use the word "Once Upon a Time" was Sergio Leone, but
yeah.
funnily enough, that's not actually his movie. It's that has a story behind
Oh,
it.
really?
Ali Hatami made a TV show in Iran, which was very famous. It was one of the first big production TV shows in Iranian history, called Hezar Dastan, which basically means nightingale. But at the same time, it means a person with 1,000 hands. It's a political thriller
Hmm.
and amazing show. I love it. But when he died, another director in Iran, Varouche Karim Masihi, he edited his TV show into two movies. One of them is, I think, I don't know how they translated it. It might be Punishment Committee, and
Hmm.
the other one is Once Upon a Time in Tehran. So it's like they re-edited his TV show into two feature films.
Interesting. I do see Punishment Committee here, 1997. So yes,
Yeah,
but I cannot find many global releases. As far as Blu-rays or
yeah, yeah,
so it
yeah,
sounds like he's pretty insular. It's interesting just
yeah.
generally how film travels. We have this international film, and of course, Cannes. We have so many film
Yeah.
festivals, but the ones that I think when I think of Iranian films, and I guess it's technically the Iranian New Wave. A lot of times they're kind of neorealism. They're human
Hmm.
stories. Often they're tragic, but you get people. Kiarostami is the big one, of course. But
Yeah, yeah,
Panahi, some Makhmalbaf, uh, Farhadi is a more recent one.
yeah.
Separation about Ellie,
Uh,
both of those played here. So yeah,
Rasulov, which had a movie in this
yeah.
year's Oscar. Actually, speaking of Panahi, they were arrested together. They were bodies in chains together.
Are they still
uh,
in prison?
Rasulov escaped, basically. He,
That's right. He went to Cannes, right? Yeah, he escaped.
yeah.
Yeah, which was I mean,
Uh,
I haven't seen his film, but that's a great story. I mean,
I haven't
great
seen
that
it either, to be
yeah,
honest.
champion. Well, yeah, I guess it probably is not available there, right?
I mean, I can find it. It's not hard to find, but you
Right.
know, legitimately, no. It's I can't watch it legitimately.
You can't go down to the cinema and watch it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and of course,
exactly.
Panahi's made
Panahi,
films. Yeah,
yeah.
am I pronouncing
Most of
that
the
correctly?
things, Panahi, yeah, yeah. It's, I mean,
Panahi.
it's okay. But the funny thing, by the way, again, I didn't realize that Iranian New Wave outside of Iran means something very different to Iranian New
Interesting.
Wave inside of Iran. Because when I hear Iranian New Wave, my mind isn't Kiarostami and Panahi and Makhmalbaf. It's actually like
Mhm.
4 decades before them. It's Darush Mehjoui's The Cow. It's
Interesting.
Masoud Kimiyai's Qaisar. Like, to us, we are taught Iranian New Wave is that. But it was actually
Interesting.
funny. I didn't know that. I learned it when I started talking in like cinema communities. But outside of Iran, it means a completely different thing. And I was caught off guard the first time. I was like, okay, Kiarostami wasn't in. I mean, he was. He literally made the opening
Right.
credits for Qaisar, but he didn't make any movies in the Iranian new cinema. To me,
Yeah, I'm actually looking it up, and it looks like, yeah, the cow you mentioned. So looks like there's a first wave, and then there's a second and third wave,
Mhm.
um, Kiarostami is a big presence in the third new wave. So you have three, we
Yeah,
have one. So
yeah.
but yeah, and I don't see it listed here, but I'm a big fan of Chess of the Wind. Although, and they also mention
Mhm.
Omar Khayyam as an influence. I studied him in college, so he's was
Oh,
a brilliant storyteller
yeah,
and poet.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not as I think that those early new waves have not traveled as well, at least as far as I know. I did not study them in film, but I think Chess of the Wind did.
I've yeah,
Yeah.
Chase of the Wind is actually an interesting story in that until it got restored, uh,
Hmm.
a lot of Iranians haven't seen it either. It
Hmm.
was it showed once and then it was basically restricted. So a
Hmm.
lot of Iranians haven't seen it either. Um, until it came out in 2020. I think 2022 was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a Martin Scorsese, World
yeah,
Cinema
yeah.
Foundation restoration. So you've seen the restored version?
In the restored version, and honestly, it was great. To be honest, I love the movie. I genuinely think it was a great movie. Funnily enough, I have heard about it so much, and it was like one of those lost media movies, like movies that,
Mm-hmm.
unless you know someone who is like can give you a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg, you can't actually see it. And I, again, it's actually one of the greatest thing about this whole universality of cinema is actually that movies
Mm-hmm.
find their way back, like they don't get forgotten like this.
And I'm glad we have people. Yeah, of course, Martin Scorsese does not need me to compliment him. He's done quite well, but there are other people I know that are finding films and restoring.
Mhm.
I know people that have worked very arduously on the restoration process. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
very but it's very important to get these films back. So I know it's not Iranian, but for example, the Apu trilogy from
Mhm.
Bengali from India,
Yeah.
that was burned in a fire, and it's been now about 5-6 years, maybe a little longer, that it's been back, and it looks amazing. So, and in fact, I
Yeah.
do think that some of the classic Iranian films that I've seen are not too dissimilar as far as like the type of storytelling. Uh,
Yeah.
so one thing I'll share, Ali, you wouldn't know this, but my first podcast was named Close Up, and I named it after
Oh.
the film. The thing is, I had not seen the film.
Oh.
It
Oh.
was I have now numerous times, but this was actually I started about 10 years ago, and so that was my first exposure to Mabaf. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but I remember him as an actor and figure in that film,
Yeah.
and his
Mohsen
film is a
Mahmalbaf. It's
thank
again, it
thank
has
you.
the khe, which is,
Yeah,
I understand it. But yeah, he is a semi-controversial figure in my opinion himself,
really.
but
Okay.
he is also a great director. Like he made one of my favorite movies of all time, which is uh I think it's called Once Upon a Time Cinema, but in Iranian it's called Nasiruddin Shah Aktör Cinema.
Okay.
It's a movie about movies in Iran. It's actually,
Oh, I
I
love
think
those.
that one had an international release because the version I found had an English subtitle.
I'm looking for it. I've seen so I see the cyclist. I've seen that. I've
Mhm.
seen few there. Of course, going from say Kiarostami to
Mhm.
Malaf he's different, a different style. Uh,
Yeah.
let's see. Yeah, Once Upon a Time Cinema. I see that, and I know that you like making movies about cinema. So I think that's so. I would love to see this. Probably is not available.
Uh, I I don't know to be honest, but I think it should be. There is an English subtitled version out there, like it can be found. But
Nice.
again, it's a great movie about Iranian movies. It's about the history of Iranian movies. It's a comedy. It's a postmodernist comedy. Actually, it does feature tie in very specifically with the cow. Like it's very important to
Okay.
that
Yeah.
story. I think the cow should have an international release as well. I think Criterion had the cow.
Hmm. Um,
I'm not sure. I
it
to be
might be
honest, I
Arrow.
did check the list.
Arrow had a set that was, I think, three of his films, and I forget which ones. I actually have it, so it's a I
Oh,
didn't bring it to nearby, but and I've watched a little bit of it. But yeah, but of course when Close Up, that was a universal
yeah,
acclaim, and that's where you get the blending of reality and fiction. And of course, Kiarostami is
yeah,
probably, I would guess, globally, probably the biggest figure out of Iran in cinema. Is
no
that fair?
doubt. Yes,
I'm actually going to
incredible.
share.
Yeah.
Now, people on audio won't be able to see this, and I'm sharing Criterion. They have their flash sale, so
Mhm.
there's Godzilla.
Oh,
Oh, it scrolls really fast. So I'm just going to search for Iran. I'll just search for Iran. So we're probably going to see. So there is. So there's close up. Here, yeah. So here's a lot of uh, uh, Kiarostami. Let me actually just go to view all. So downpour. Oh, I've seen downpour. That's
Yeah, that's a
Aram.
Bahram Beyzai movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. Also, it's his directional debut. It was his first movie, and it was like made on such a shoestring budget that he didn't feed his actors. Like the actors brought food from home.
Wow, that's probably not as uncommon as you might think, but
Yeah,
72. Wow, so that's a long time ago. Yeah,
yeah.
this is in the international. Yeah, I just love seeing these stills. Um, yeah.
Actually, funnily enough, my favorite actor in Iran is Muhammad Ali Keshavarz, and
Hmm.
he's in three of the movies who are in Criterion. He's in Downpour, he's in Chess of the Wind, and Through the Olive Trees.
Oh wow. Okay. So he plays Nazem,
Yeah,
the headmaster here. So that's
yeah,
yeah. Again, that's another Martin Scorsese. So yeah, thank you. And
yeah,
it's not just him, but his organization. So we have Kiarostami. So we have Close Up, 24 Frames, which I think is a gorgeous
yes,
film. The Coker
I
trilogy.
agree.
Is it called the Coker trilogy in Iran, or um,
Yeah, it
that's
is
where
called
I
the
don't know the.
Coca trilogy.
Okay,
Uh,
that's an area, the geography I don't know as well, but it's more out in the country, I suppose.
yeah, it has to do with a massive earthquake, and the Coca is a region in Iran, around the northern Iran, and all of these
Yeah.
stories have to do something with that. Funnily enough,
I
and life goes on. We have another name for it in Iran. We call it a life and nothing else.
I've seen that, yes, and I think that it was called that, but for whatever reason, when this edition came out, I think they changed it. This
Yeah,
is interesting because it kind of has all of Kiarostami's styles. So this is narrative, and it's a coming of age. I think Where's the Friend's House? I don't know what it's called there. I think that's a beautiful
uh, it
coming of
is.
age
The
film.
rest of them are correct. Just that one caught my eye. I didn't know it was called "And Life Goes On."
Yeah, and so people that haven't seen, I won't spoil, but this is kind of a documentary style, with
Mhm.
kind of with that fiction as the core, and then Through the Olive Trees is also, and trees would be a very a very
Yeah,
common topic for him. So yeah, I love this trilogy. So and then of course
me too.
Taste of Cherry.
Taste of Cherry is one of my top 10 Iranian movies of all time. It hits me where it counts, like in the heart.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a tough
It's
one to talk about without getting to the ending. But yeah, it's a tough
yeah.
one. I say it's the
I mean,
first Palme d'Or.
oh yeah, yeah. It's the. I mean, it says the first. It's basically so far the only movie in Iran that has won the Palme d'Or.
Oh wow.
Um, it's a gorgeous movie, beautifully
Hmm.
told. I love it so much. It's heartbreaking. It's emotionally just devastating, to be honest.
Yes, and these. I don't know if people on video can see. I'm looking at a still here. There's a
Mhm.
lot of driving around mountainous area, which actually I
Yeah,
didn't think of it before, but that I think kind of matches some of the child running in Where's the Friend's House.
yeah,
Zigzag is what they call it. So yeah,
yeah,
it's very character driven and mysterious. He builds to you don't really understand what's happening with this character. Now, of course,
yeah,
the mountainous areas here and the I knew you're in the big city. You're in
yeah.
Tehran, but uh, are these? And I know it's a very big country, but have you been to these locations or?
Yeah, these are northern Iran. Northern Iran is very mountainous. Even like if you Tehran itself is kind of mountainous. Like if you stand at the southern south of Tehran and look to the north, you can actually see the mountain. You can see Damavand and
Oh wow.
uh, some like the area I am in Tehran is actually considered like near the mountain.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah,
So
it's Yeah, he loved northern Iran. Like he loved that uh, area. Uh, s- he
I
made a
could
lot of
see.
movies there.
Yeah. So like here, I'm looking at where's the
Yes,
friend's
exactly.
house,
The
and it has
zigzag.
the zigzag. Yeah, I could see the geography, the natural geography works well with cinema, and he certainly made it
Yeah,
work well. But he also, we're looking here. Yeah, there's a lot of Kiarostami on Criterion. So here's
yeah.
Jess of the Wind, which is on
Muhammad Reza
the
Aslani. Yes.
yeah, the fourth World Cinema Set. Oh yeah, we have The Runner
Mhm.
as well. Of course,
Oh yeah,
Japan,
the runner.
France. Yeah, The Runner. Amir Naderi. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
It's recent.
Yeah, Amir Nadevi. Uh, it's a fantastic movie. Again, incredibly character driven, incredibly
Mhm.
heartbreaking. There is a great camera technique in it that I love. That I think it was ingenious for what it did, and just, I mean, the movie is. This is like the amazing thing about Iran that I genuinely do love. I don't like a lot of things about Iran. This is one of the things I love. If you can see, in contrast to Kiarostami, who went to the north, Amin Adawi went to the southern parts of Iran,
Hmm.
and it's much flatter. It's much hotter. Like it's genuinely a much hotter climate. And this movie, I just get hot watching it. Like I feel like, okay, I need to drink something cold now, because I mean the weather and the humidity and everything plays a role in the movie, but it is genuinely a hard watch. Not to be honest,
Yeah.
most of these movies are incredibly hard watches. They're not movies you
Yeah.
can just recommend.
Not very optimistic often, but I love this shot here that on the water, and I guess that would be the Caspian Sea. So if it's the south, is that right?
Oh no, no, no!
Yeah.
It's, I think it's a Persian Gulf.
Oh, Persian Gulf. Oh, right, of course. Yeah, so that's a gorgeous shot, and yeah, no, I love that film. I forgot that was on Criterion, but of course, The Wind Will Carry Us is one that's
Yes,
coming out,
yeah.
and
Funnily enough, I for the longest time I used to think that Cocker trilogy uh,
mhm.
had The Wind Will Carry Us, but I realized
I
no,
could
it
see
was
that.
Life and Nothing Else, because it again has a similar theme. It has all the
Mhm,
similar themes. It take place in the same region, so I thought,
mhm.
oh, it's part of that. But nope, it wasn't.
Yeah, probably a lot of America. Well, this did get a release in America in maybe 5-10 years ago. But I don't know how big of a release it was. But yeah, I'm just
Mm,
scrolling through. This does look like the same aesthetic as that
yeah.
trilogy. And then yes, they're so yeah, I'm a big fan of the film as well. But I can't wait to rewatch it because I last
Mhm.
saw it about around that time, and I think I had seen Taste of Cherry. I had not seen the Coker
Mhm.
trilogy because those were brought back when they
Yeah.
came out, which I think was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'd seen the first
Uh,
one, with their friend's house, but the other two I
mhm.
hadn't seen. Masterpieces, I think.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
are incredible movies. He was an incredible director. Like,
Hmm.
sorry, I know this is not probably not the best comparison, but his death to the Iranian cinema was as big and momentous as David Lynch's death to the
I
American
bet.
cinema.
I bet. Um, yeah, it's and honestly, I was affected by his death, and I
Mm.
yeah, he's a major, I think, just global cinema, major figure, and I know that he's influenced other worlds. I mean, plenty of I'm now writing about A24 New Wave, and I look at a lot of
Mm.
international films. I certainly see Kiarostami, and there's not a lot of Panahi except for No Bears in the collection. I pulled up his IMDb.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of him, but he's had a very interesting career. So this is
yeah.
not a film, and Taxi is very different than some of his earlier work. So we have
The funny thing
Circle,
about
The Mirror. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the funny thing about Panahi to me is that Kiarostami has a very distinct style. Again,
Hmm.
the reason I compare him to David Lynch is because he was also a multimedia artist. He painted, he used to do
Yes.
poetry, he did a lot of photography. Like his first big break. Excuse me for a second.
Hmm.
Sorry
I'm
about that.
clicking on the. Oh, you're fine.
His first big break, Kirosami's first big break, was actually doing opening credits for another movie, Qaisar. And so he was a
Interesting. Wow.
multimedia artist, but he had a very distinct style. To me, Panahi doesn't really have that style, but I'm
Hmm.
not saying that as a negative. Like, he has branched out far more than I think Kiarostami had in what he tells with his stories. Like,
Uh,
um,
yeah.
a funny thing is, when I think about it, Kurosami does have more explicitly experimental movies. Like, I don't know if
Hmm.
you've seen Shirin or not. It's one of my favorite Kurosami movies.
I haven't. No, I believe I somewhat believe that Criterion has the rights so at
Oh,
least most of his filmography. So I hope that we'll see that at some point. But
I
yeah,
hope
no,
so too.
I don't believe I've seen that. Yeah,
Uh,
when I think of his '90s career, he was pretty much a straight. And this was, 90s globally and in America that were very much independent human stories, and I think he was at the
mhm.
heart of these. White Balloon, Mirror, and The Circle, I think, are very much.
Oh yeah,
I think the White Balloon was didn't that win something at Cannes? I forget.
I'm not sure to be honest.
Oh, it did. It won Golden Camera. So yeah,
Oh,
but that was a long time ago. Not the Palm, but still. And then you're right. He
to be honest, in Iran we have a joke that Panahi just like takes a picture. He wins a golden bear at Venice.
Yes, I not to no shade to Panahi, but I think Kiarostami. I mean, you can't really compare the experimentation,
Yeah.
the way he, uh, uh, you know, took leaps, took risks with his films. So, and that Certified Copy is a good example. That, of course, that's a French film or set in France, but very much his type. But of course,
Yeah.
the big thing, and I don't know if you can talk about this or to what length. So, I don't want to. You keep me
Um.
in
Oh,
line,
yeah,
but
I mean, it's basically world news at this point. Panahi got arrested a couple of
mhm,
times actually. First,
yeah.
I think in 2009, he was one of the directors that got hit by the 2009 Green Movement, and
Hmm.
then he got arrested again a couple of times. He has been restricted from making like official movies in the sense that, okay, I don't know how much I have to explain. Iranian movies have a review process in order to be made and distributed in Iran. You have to get your script and idea to the
Hmm.
Ministry of Culture, and they either submit it or reject it, and it depends on a lot of stuff. Who's the president? Who's the minister of culture? Is the guy
Yeah.
reading your script that they had a fight with his son or not? All of them have incredible input in whether or not your movie gets submitted. But then when you make your movie, you have to then get a distribution permit from the Ministry of Culture. And a lot of movies in Iran are actually made but cannot be distributed because they don't have a
Hmm.
permit. And so Panahi technically cannot make a movie in Iran in the sense
Yeah.
that he cannot basically, and most of his movies, especially to 2010s and 2020s, are either self-funded or incredibly small budgeted. Like,
Hmm.
he
And
makes them.
he does things that kind of gets around the so this I'm showing this is not a film. This was made while he was
Oh
under
yeah,
house arrest.
yes,
I do remember the lizard pet that he had right here.
oh yeah,
um we don't see many of those here, but definitely not
oh
as pets.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I do.
I actually know a couple of people who did have one, which is
Really.
weird. I
Okay.
know. Yeah, I have.
I'm sure
I
they're
had a
great
friend who used
pets.
to have a snake when I was in high school, but
We have
that.
snakes here, but not. I don't know what that
Oh,
animal is, but yeah,
I
we don't
think
have
it's
many
an
of those.
iguana. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do have
Might be
iguanas
an
here.
iguana.
So yeah,
But
Taxi.
yeah,
I
he
guess
makes
Taxi
movies.
was, yeah.
He was still restricted from filmmaking, and the way he gets around them, like his movies, sorry, cannot have
Hmm.
an Iranian release. So technically speaking, they cannot have a profit, at least in real. So
Mm.
he usually just forgoes the local cinema and sends them abroad.
Hmm.
And
And
in
he has that
2022,
reputation. He can, but not
yeah,
everybody can, unfortunately.
yeah, exactly. Uh, he has a solid foundation. He has a solid fan base. He has friends outside of
Hmm.
Iran. One of them, as we mentioned, is Rasulov, Muhammad Rasulov.
Yeah.
And the thing about Iranian cinema is that it is incredibly sectional. Like
Mm.
infighting in Iranian, like we don't have production companies in the sense that American cinema has. Like you don't have a production
Sure.
company, but things are incredibly sectional. And one section is the independent film market.
Mm.
I'm going to call them market.
Of
Um,
course, yeah. That's
and yeah, and Panahi is definitely one of them. Kiarostami was basically the biggest one amongst them. Then we have a section of overtly governmental, like people who basically make whatever the government wants.
mm.
Uh, I don't know.
So
I'm not gonna
propaganda of
name.
sorts.
I mean,
Maybe not. Yeah, I don't want to put a
yes.
word in your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it is propagandic, but it's not outright propaganda. Like
Mm.
basically, they're not making propaganda because they told like we need to put this idea out. They make propaganda because they believe in that propaganda.
That
They
makes sense. So
genuinely
then, and
believe
they
in.
have some boundaries that they believe it, so they keep within those boundaries. Um,
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah,
Uh, I don't know. I'm not gonna name any. Sorry, because none of them ever will
I understand.
get that big.
Hmm.
Then there are the people who straddle the line between them. Like Asghar Farhadi
Hmm.
is definitely one who straddles
Yeah.
the line between them. He's not governmental, but his movies
Hmm.
are always permitted, always submitted. He works within the boundaries that the government sets, but he doesn't tout the ideals that the government wants. Like one of the
Yeah.
reasons certified coffee and like someone in love exist is because Kiarostami
Hmm.
was under so much pressure inside of Iran that he literally left.
Hmm.
Um, the reason a lot of older Iranian directors don't make movies anymore, like Nasser Taqvoi, which made amazing Iranian movies, or Bahram Beyzai, which made Downpour. Bahram Beyzai also had to leave Iran
Oh,
because they are
yeah.
not willing to play the game, basically. Asghar Farhadi is willing to play the game. I'm not saying that as like a negative, basically. He just knows this is the game,
Sure.
and if he wants to make movies inside of Iran, he has to play it. But Panahi refuses to play the game, but refuses to basically give up either.
Hmm. What's interesting is I did know that about Farhadi, but I had, and I've seen his films, but I guess not being from the region, not being from the country, I don't see, and not knowing the the politics, the bureaucracy. I just look at them as the art of film and characters, and I think he probably from an outsider's perspective, his films do not seem too different than some of the independent like films from earlier, from the third wave, as we'll call it, like a Separation, Salesman, About Ellie.
Yeah.
They're really well received
I mean, to
films
be
here too.
honest, yeah, they are well received inside of Iran as well, and they are not bad movies. But
Hmm.
it's one of those things that I think if you compare them, you can see the cracks appearing. For example,
Gotcha.
one of the things is certain themes that Farhadi doesn't really ever touch upon
Hmm.
because,
Yeah.
I mean, it might be artistic choice. I'm not putting it like, oh, he doesn't do that because government doesn't want to, but
Right.
it does make sense that government also doesn't want to mention them.
Hmm.
And otherwise, for example, I love a separation, but I also don't like a lot of. I'm not sure how to diplomatically put it. I don't like the negative classist view that it does have.
Okay. I could. I mean,
Of
it's been a while since I've seen it, but I could,
yeah.
in my recollection, I can see how that would be conveyed. I kind of it's not an exact comparison, but we recently, through our little journey, we looked at
Mhm.
Douglas Sirk, and he made movies in Germany
Oh,
before he came to America, and they were technically propaganda films in Germany, but you would not know. Basically, it's all about the homeland and how lovely it is in Germany. It's not about the politics at that time. This is the 30s, so very dark time in
yeah.
Germany, of course. But that's interesting.
Funnily
If you don't
enough,
mind,
excuse me
yeah.
for
Oh, please, please.
interrupting you.
Oh
I
no,
fairly recently,
anytime.
this month, I saw the movie Two Soldiers. It's a
Oh
Soviet
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
And I watched it because the same reason anyone would watch that movie. It has the song
Hmm.
Temnaya Noche in it. And that scene is great. But I was watching the movie and I watched it. I went away, and the next day I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it was a propaganda movie." Like at the moment,
Oh
we
yeah,
don't
yeah.
understand them. Yeah, it's a propaganda movie
Mhm.
about how fun the Soviet army is, and
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, it's a great time. That's what I hear. And probably if I watch a separation again, I'll have that in mind. I'll probably be looking for that. And actually, Soviets is a great example because I'm sure you studied under Andrei Tarkovsky. So he was sort of
oh yes,
went against what they wanted. Of course, their Eisenstein, Ivan the Terrible,
mm,
they banned that. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
unfortunately, and that is a reality, a sad reality that sometimes governments do censor films. My hope is that.
yeah.
I mean, I can't really speak for the political situation there, but my hope is there'll be some thawing of these restrictions, and these films will become
I
available,
mean,
or filmmakers will have
to be
freedom like
honest,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, in Iran it fairly depends. There will
Mhm.
be moments of fall, there will be moments of incredible ice age, depending on who's the president. But generally, because Iranian cinema is a government entity, like it's not
Yes.
a free entity,
Hmm.
it will always have some sort of influence. And the funny thing is, it's not like they can not make it a government entity. It needs to be governmentally
Yeah.
subsidized because
Yeah.
it's not profitable enough to stand on its own. If we were going to be the American, like free market
Mm.
way, I actually would hate Iranian cinema then because there would be nothing but
Mhm.
incredibly lowbrow comedies because those are the only thing that make even a smidgen of profit.
Yes, I've
So
seen enough. I've lived in Thailand when I was very young, so I've seen some bad
oh
Thai movies, but there's also some really good Thai movies that I've seen. Pitchapong Wears Thetakal is a
yeah,
master Thai filmmaker. Yes, I would, and I think you could say that about India as well. So India
yeah,
has an industry, and it's very mainstream, and there's some really good films, but there's also some what we call lowest common denominator. And frankly, I live in
yeah.
America. We have that's basically
I mean,
90% of our films is, and the few that you probably want to see are not the ones that this. I don't know, maybe you like the Marvel movies and the James Bond. Well, I
I
guess James Bond
used
is
to.
English.
Oh yeah, I used to love the Marvel movies. I'm sorry, I'm completely over them. After Endgame, I was like, I'm done. I loved
Yeah,
them. I watched Endgame with passion. Like I wanted to watch Endgame with a passion, but afterward I was like, okay, I'm tired. I want to
yeah.
see anything that isn't a superhero movie.
I think that it's the genre is maybe wearing out a little bit. We've seen this in history with the Western, for example. I'm going to go
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
Criterion website here now. It's noisy because of this, so I'm going to just go into the flash sale because not there because I know that you like you like a lot of films. We were talking ahead of time
Yeah.
about
Oh, Wes
A24.
Anderson.
Uh, Wes Anderson,
I
yes. So
Wes Anderson is my fourth favorite director of all time.
really, okay, wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Of course, a
love
big
him to
fan.
death.
So let's see, scary movies. So these are, well, Peeping Tom. We're doing a big thing on Pal and Pressburger
Don't
in
Look
May.
Now is a incredibly
Mhm.
weird movie. It actually came out the same time as The Wicker Man, which we were talking about
Yes.
before the show. And the first time I saw it, I was genuinely disturbed. It's a disturbing
Mhm.
movie. I was like, okay, I'm not scared, but I'm feeling uneasy. I feel like something has happened that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about horror films is when they capture
Yeah,
that sense of dread. So I think Wicker Man does too. You just know something
yeah.
is not right. Now, the stories are very different, but I'm a big fan. Actually, I just received a new version of Cure. I don't know if you've seen that one
Oh,
from.
yes, yes, I have.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Um,
Oh my God, I've seen The Freaks also, the
yeah. Oh,
movie,
Todd
Todd
Browning.
Browning
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. These are great. This is three. So this was, yeah. What's great about that one is it has a package that kind of looks like it might be from the 30s. So you can kind of
yeah,
see with
exactly.
the art. It's of course Fritz Lang, um, Carnival
Yes.
of Souls. I'm going to
Cat
shrink.
people.
Go. Yeah,
Again, I'm
Jacques
sorry,
Tourneur.
I will not call out everyone. Otherwise, we're
No,
gonna be.
no, please do. That's what's fun. Vampire, I think, is a classic Dreyer.
Yes,
I'm a
exactly.
massive fan of the. Speaking of sense of dread, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Yes,
The
I
Innocents.
understand.
Funny
Funny
Games.
Games, Michelle
Okay.
Haneke, which,
Yes.
funnily enough, I think there is a connection between him and Kiarostami, and I don't know what. I think they met somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure I'm sure there's a lot of mutual respect. I mean, they're two from the same era, and
Yeah.
Hanukkah is how do I put it? Well, I would say a troll, and for lack of a better term. I mean, he's
I
very
mean,
provocative, and
yeah.
his movies
I
are
mean, to be
not.
honest,
Yeah.
no, no, go ahead. I was gonna say he did my favorite joke of all time. He made a movie. He was forced by an American producer to make an American version of that movie. He made the
Yes,
exact same movie.
he did, and I like the American version. I mean it. Because
Yeah.
it's really is the same movie, and I don't think the thing is Americans were like, okay, I don't get it, but that happens. I mean, Gus Van Sant remade Psycho,
Oh
and
yes.
um, I'm a big fan of this director Obayashi House. There's
House.
some stuff coming out from him soonish. So yeah,
Oh,
lots of
Eyes Without a Face. I
yes, friendship.
funnily enough, yeah, I didn't know that until after I watched both of them. But Holy Motors has a reference to this movie.
Oh wow, I'm
Leo Carax's
okay.
Holy Motors.
I love Holy Motors.
Yeah.
We just had St. Patrick's Day yesterday, which is an Irish
Oh,
holiday. So, lots to talk about leprechauns. So, I did not think of Holy Motors, but now making that connection, very weird
and of
leprechaun there.
course, David Cronenberg, which
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, the man, the legend. He's my. I'm sorry, I'm saying it like this. I have OCD, and because I list things, he's my eighth favorite director of all time.
Oh,
I
you are in good company.
sh- I
Um,
genuinely love him. And
we don't have
funnily
time, but
enough,
maybe I can go through my favorites or our favorites at some
oh
point. We're doing a thing on the
yeah,
Frankenheimer trilogy right now. Um,
oh Pan's Labyrinth again, great movie.
yeah,
Hard watch, very hard watch. I know. I love Del Toro. This was his darkest movie, I think.
Yeah, The Devil's Advocate's pretty dark too. That's the Spanish Civil War, but I
Oh
actually
yeah,
just got Kronos, which is his really the
oh
movie
yeah.
that
He's early. Put him on
I
the
just yeah.
map.
There's Cronenberg again. I'm just curious. Have you seen The Substance here that came
I
out last
haven't
year?
seen the substance yet. I want to watch
Okay.
it. I've been trying to watch it. I just didn't have time. The movies I watched from last year, the ones that were on Oscar, I watched The Apprentice,
Oh,
made
right.
by an
Okay.
Iranian director. Uh,
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah.
When I think of The Apprentice, I think of something else. So, of course.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Of course, the subject matter is. To be honest, it's kind of weird to get one of the hottest man in Hollywood and
mhm.
make him genuinely look like one of the ugliest men I know.
Yes, I will leave that comment hanging, but yes,
Oh yeah,
I thought it was a
I
fine movie,
watched.
but yeah,
Yeah, to me it was fine too. The biggest problem I had with it was stylistic choices. I hate shaky cam, and this
Yeah.
had a lot of shaky cam,
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
which, funnily
Good.
enough, is a. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say good
Uh,
supporting performance though. Jeremy
oh
Strong
yeah,
was
yeah.
very good in
Jeremy
that.
Strong
Yeah.
was great. Funnily
Um,
enough, when I think of Roy Cohn, I'm sorry, I know this is completely unrelated, but I
oh no,
think
it's
of Al
this is exactly what I
Pacino.
wanted.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yes, yes, Al Pacino.
because he played Roy Cohn in Angels in America, the TV show.
Yeah.
Uh, and for me, always when I think of Roy Cohn, I have like that Al Pacino
Hmm.
style in me, which
Yeah.
I know is probably not what Roy Cohn sounded or looked like. I think Jeremy Strong's version is probably a lot closer, at least
Yeah.
from what I saw on
What I
videos.
hear is that it was not quite an impersonation. He made it. He made it his own character. But the people that knew
Yeah,
the real Roy Cohn, they said it was a really good performance. So I think that matters. But well, Ali,
yeah.
yeah, and I know you make movies about cinema. So now I want to see your movies. But is there any
Ah,
way to see those outside of Iran or inside of Iran? I guess I should ask. Um,
well, to be honest, I make very short movies. The movie I'm making right now, whenever it comes
mhm.
out, I will shout it from the rooftops. And but a lot of my earlier stuff I have put on my YouTube channel, but they're in Persian and they're not very good. My first ever movie is 71 minutes, and it is a boring movie. Genuinely
Wow.
an endurance test. Watch it from start to finish.
Well, I've
Uh,
watched Chantel Ackerman and
oh,
um, lots of slow cinema. Speaking of Tarkovsky, Bellatar, so yeah, I can
I
handle.
mean, I mean, those are slow. This is boring. Like I don't like slow cinema myself, but this one is not good. But I also make videos about movies in general. I actually made two videos about two Iranian movies.
Hmm.
One I make one every year around this time for Nowruz. I'm
Oh, nice.
actually working on a script for the next one. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, that video has been out as well. Uh, but I like to talk about like very niche things in Iranian
Mhm.
cinema that might be interesting to you if you just want to see like movies that otherwise wouldn't have gotten a uh, spotlight. The word I was looking
I
for.
That's the exact thing because I mean I've seen some great Iranian films that we've talked, many of which we've talked about today, but I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I have not seen. So I would love that. So yeah, we'll put those in the podcast notes. Hopefully
Mhm.
you're
Thank you
finished
so
when
much.
we're yeah, and of course, if not, we'll promote you and share it with our listener base. Is there anywhere
Thank you
social
so
media
much.
wise people can find you online or
I mean, beside the YouTube thing that I mentioned, I'm also on Instagram. I
okay.
left Twitter before Musk bought it. uh, and yeah, I'm only on Instagram. I don't have as much of an active presence as I want to, but I'm trying to get back. The past few
I
months haven't been easy.
Yes, I know the feeling. Yeah. Well, great talking to you. Would love to talk, just cinema at some point, and out, global
I
cinema
would
because
love
it
to.
sounds like you have a lot of interests. So, a great conversation, and so saying goodbye to everybody, and great talking to you, Ali.
Thank you for having me.